Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition of Just Parlays with Chris King. I'm Jim Williams hosting today, and our expert, somebody who normally hosts the show, is of course Scott Reichel. Chris King is on assignment. Chris is doing some heavy duty work from a standpoint of writing for winners and whiners. So if you want his information, all you have to do is go in the show box below because that's where it will be. And you can buy his premium picks, and highly recommend that. All that information is in the show box. So if you want Chris today, just go down the show box, click on it, and he'll be writing or is writing for winners and whiners. Meanwhile, we got an expert in Scott Rochelle who is not a bad choice when it comes to picking sports. So it's good to see you, Scotty. And here we are, day 2 of the Chris out of the show routine, and we're going to talk NFL football. Now we're going to talk baseball for those of you out there, but if you have baseball questions that are not that we are at the moment may not be getting to, because we're going to be speaking a lot more about the NFL, please put them in the comments, live comments, and we'll try to answer them as we see them. And the other, when it comes to football, if you're watching us on replay, okay, after we have signed off, put your questions in the comments and we will answer those for you. One thing we will like to hope that you would do is like and subscribe and ring the bell. Okay, so very simple. There's 7 of you here I can see right now already. Do us a favor, please, all 7 of you, hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. Okay, so Scotty, tonight NFL football returns, and not a bad opening night game.
Yeah, well, anytime you have the defending champions playing on the Thursday, it's usually going to be fun,
Right.
but they are against the Super Bowl favorites, so it should be a very good game. The line in that one is currently Bills -2, -2.5 or so, so you should be expecting a very competitive game. I think it should be. We're going to get into a play or two from that during the parlays, but it was definitely a good first day trying to, I'd say, match Chris's parlay expertise because I hit the 4-teamer at plus 596, which was nice. Had the Brewers Rockies over 11.5. Had the tennis match over 3.5 sets with Alcaraz and Sinner, which was one of the best tennis matches of all time.
Yeah.
Had the Cardinals money line at -310. That was a miracle. They scored 5 runs in the 9th, but still a win nonetheless. And we had the Barcelona soccer match. We had the first half team total over 1.5 goals, and they scored 3 in the first half, and that paid out at plus 596. So pretty nice to cash a 6-1 ticket basically, and hopefully we'll cash another one.
There you go. I fell asleep at 1:00 at that on the tennis, and I woke up, and it was still playing, and I thought it was a replay. And then I see that it's live still. Didn't get over till what is it, 2:45 this morning.
I think it was past 3. I think it ended at like 3:30 in the morning, I think.
Wow. Anyway, it was one hell of a tennis match. Barcelona won 5-1 in that game yesterday. So yeah, you scored big. So it was a good day for anybody paid attention to Scotty. You cashed in at the window. Speaking of cashing in at the window, let's take a quick second to thank our sponsors, and that of course is Caesar Sportsbook. Now Caesar is our sponsor, and they have a great deal for first-time users. You get up to $1,250 free bet insurance. Download the app today. So if you're a first-time bettor, you can bet any number up to $1,250. And if for some reason it doesn't work for you, you have a bad day, don't worry. Caesar's got you covered. So as we always say, things you need to do is check the state and the standpoint of how old you are, and always bet responsibly. Okay, so there you go. And so Caesars is a great sports book. By all means, check it out. All right, all the information is in the show box below. So housekeeping out of the way, let's see what's going on there, Scott. Where do you want to start?
I'll let you pick. I know that you had a couple of games that you wanted to talk about for the NFL.
Yeah.
So we can go through those first.
Hey, Tim Earl and Ryan Page and Queen Elizabeth just passed away. Rest in peace. And Charles now is the King of England. So that was, we didn't, I almost made a bad joke there. I'm going to let that go. I have my apologies. What's the upset special? Ryan Page is asking for an upset special. Well, I get the games that I would suggest watching this week. Throw us some of your upset specials there, Scotty. Things that you might see as an upset this weekend.
Yeah, well, I figured we would go through some of your favorite games and then
Okay.
just break it open into a discussion. I'm not going to forget that question, though, Ryan. I'll get into that question later.
Cool.
But I feel like just jumping around, we'll go through a couple of games, then I'll give some of my thoughts about some
Fair
long
enough.
shot upset choices.
You know what? This is 4 games to watch. This is from a fan standpoint, okay? I mean, this is not from a necessarily a betting standpoint. To me, these are the 4 most intriguing games. You've got the Patriots at the Dolphins, so you got an AFC East game right off the get-go. You've got the Steelers and Bengals, an AFC North game right off the get-go. Packers and Vikings, an NFC North game right off the get-go, and an AFC West game of the Raiders and the Chargers. So those would be my 4 games that I'll pick one to watch, and I'll have Red Zone, right by my side as we get through there. Thoughts on these 4 games, Scott?
So, out of those 4 games, when it comes to watchability, I'll sub out the Patriots Dolphins one for the Packers Vikings one. I just think that game should be a little bit more offensive. I like points. And when you see Mac Jones with play calling by Patricia and Joe Judge against Tua Tagovailoa, I think I'm going to go elsewhere when it comes to trying to expect points. The Packers game will be fascinated by because they lost a lot of wide receivers and Lazard might not play. So I am kind of intrigued how Rodgers is going to manage to produce at a high level with limited weapons or the corpses of Randall Cobb and Sammy Watkins. So we'll see how that goes. The Chiefs game should be high scoring, but I think the Chiefs win handily. I'm not exactly sold on this Arizona team. But when it comes down to the other games that you included, first of all, for the Dolphins-Patriots game, we'll talk about first. I like the under in that game. I don't think New England's going to be that good offensively. Defensively, they should be fine. The Dolphins, we know that they got Tyreek Hill. I still find Tua to be a little bit of a game manager quarterback who likes to check the ball down. So I expect a pretty lower scoring game there. Steelers-Bengals is interesting because the Steelers got a quarterback upgrade with Trubisky, which tells you how bad Big Ben was last year because Trubisky's an upgrade at quarterback. But Cincinnati, of course, is the runner-ups from last year. They got a lot better during the offseason. They addressed the offensive line. I'm going to lean Cincinnati there. I actually like the Vikings as an underdog here against the Packers. I personally think that even though Green Bay has done well historically, I think this Vikings team is being slept on. And I like the new head coach. They finally got rid of Zimmer. They're going to air it out a little bit more offensively. But you can't lose that much offensive production from the passing game, including arguably the best receiver in the game. You can argue Cooper Kupp, but Devontae Adams maybe 1A, 1B.
Sure.
I just think they've lost so many weapons that I'm not automatically expecting Green Bay to hit the ground running. And we've seen Minnesota win a couple games against Green Bay in Minnesota. I think there's a reason why the line's 1.5. I think it's a little bit trappy. I kind of like Minnesota in that one. And for the Raiders-Chargers game, I like the over. I think you're going to see a ton of points.
Yeah. Let me run through on the Patriots. That actually isn't the first game I would watch. It just happens to be one of the games I watch.
You threw it out there. That's why I was just throwing. I was saying if I had a choice, I'm not picking
you're
that
right.
game.
You're right. No, I agree with you. I have a feeling that's going to be one of the 4. That's probably the most boring of the group. You've got 2 quarterbacks. One of them is going to break out here, or neither of them is going to break out here as a signal caller for their teams. Both of them, as you say, it's going to be game managed both sides. And, I just think this if the Dolphins are supposed to be a playoff team, then beating the Patriots is something they're going to have to do. Because otherwise, there's not 3 teams from the AFC East getting into the playoffs.
I also just don't think the Patriots are very good.
No, and I don't think the Dolphins are that good. But we'll find out. As for the Steelers-Bengals, I saw a lot of the Steelers preseason games.
They look good.
they look good, but your point is well taken. They're having trouble in the interior line, and that's if you're going to have trouble, that's not where you want it. So we'll have to see what goes on. The Bengals, we'll see. I mean, they've got talent. They made it to the Super Bowl. As you said, they addressed their needs up front, but the Steelers and the Bengals always have close games. So we'll see how that plays out. Packers, Vikings. I'm with you. The Vikings, if the Vikings have a year to win a division, this might just be the year that they sneak up and take, that crown from the Packers. As for the Raiders and Chargers, that's just going to be fun. They're going to throw the ball all over the field.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. To go back to the Steelers, though, there was one thing I kind of found fascinating leading up to the game. They announced Trubisky's going to be starting. Now, I'm sure some people, whether you're a fan of Pittsburgh or not, kind of wanted Pickett to start. I'm not surprised that Tomlin went with the veteran option. And the fact that Trubisky counts as a veteran despite being like 25 tells you the current state of the NFL. But I find it a little bit weird, maybe you might agree or disagree, that Trubisky's been there for basically a cup of coffee up to this point. He was already named team captain. Do you find that weird? Because he hasn't been there for that long. You figured somebody more long tenured would have been named a captain, but Trubisky's been there for what, like 3 months, and he got the captain spot?
Yeah, from what I understand, and I spoke to Mike Tomlin recently, and also to a few writers in Pittsburgh, and everybody, to a person, was impressed with how Mitch came in and won the locker room over in like 5 minutes. He was in there. He was the first guy, to practice. He was the last guy out. He was there watching film. He was there basically doing everything that he felt. And he was coaching up. And as you said, 25 years old, he was coaching up, all the young guys on the team. And so I think what he impressed upon the Steelers was that, hey, whether I'm the number one quarterback or not, I'm here because I want to be and I want to play. And I think that's what won them over, and that probably is what got him the captain's position. I think also it's a whole lot easier to start a season with a seasoned quarterback as opposed to start it with Kenny Pickett and then pull Pickett and bring in Mitch Trubisky. I think.
Well, do you think it's more difficult to pull Trubisky since he has won over the entire locker room?
It depends. I mean, if he's just stinking to join up, well, then no, you have to make that choice. If he's, if he's playing decent and they still decide, let's go with Pickett, that might be a little more difficult. But I think from at least what I'm told and what I've seen, the two of them get along fine. The team likes them both. Pickett is very happy to sit back and watch Mitch play. So he can get some idea of how the game's played. Because as you know, preseason is not regular season. It doesn't even represent even a tenth of what the real season is like. So it's what it is. And I think that Mitch will play well. I mean, Chicago's where quarterbacks go to die. And I think that, Mitch under the system in Pittsburgh will flourish and do fine. So we'll see. But that's going to be a wild division with the Bengals. It's, we'll see how the Ravens do because they're going to have a good team. And we know that there's pretty much a train wreck in Cleveland. So there's that. But it's going to be an interesting game. And, we'll see. But the Steelers' defense is not bad. So I don't think they're going to. I think it'll be a close game. Whether they win or lose, I don't know. But I do think whatever it is, it's going to be close.
Yeah, I think the main problem they ran into last year is the same problem that a lot of teams ran into. They couldn't cover Jamar Chase. And I'm not sure if they can cover him this time around either. So you still have Burrow, you still have Higgins, you still have Chase. I just think Pittsburgh, I think it's correlated. If Pittsburgh covers, I like the under. Because if they give up 30 points minimum, they're getting blown out. Like, I don't think they can score enough to keep pace with Cincinnati. They need to force turnovers. They need to get after Burrow. That's an issue because Cincinnati improved the offensive line. But I do think that game's going to be more close than people think. I guess the question is, do you think Pittsburgh keeps it close for the entire fourth quarter, or if Cincinnati puts the game on ice with a couple minutes to go? I think that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I think, I think Pittsburgh is one of those teams that's going to get better as the season goes, as Mitch gets more comfortable with that system. And I agree with you. I think that this all comes down to how many games did Cincinnati win in the fourth quarter last year? I mean, they did very well in the fourth quarter. They were, they won
That's the
by
catalyst of the Super Bowl run.
Yeah, look at that run. I mean, kickers alone from that standpoint, they were in good shape. So they won a lot of close games. And this one on Sunday should be just as close as, as we expect it to be.
But
so,
I do want to pivot, though, since you mentioned your favorite games. I'm going to ask you the opposite. I'm going to ask you, which one of these games do you think is going to be the worst to actually watch? I'll give you 3 candidates. You have the Bears 49ers game.
Okay.
You have the Jaguars Commanders game. And you have the Giants Titans. What do you think is the worst game?
Commanders and
Jaguars.
Okay. I just, to me, and the funny thing is, that's a game I could watch. I mean, I literally could go out and probably buy a ticket to it. There's nothing there to me. I mean, there's nothing that excites me about that. I mean, neither team is. Yeah. Go ahead.
Even the stadium's bad.
Oh God, yes.
Sorry, with the worst field, or I'd say consensus, it's the worst actual stadium at this point. We saw videos of sewage being spilled out onto the fans just accidentally because of bad piping. It's a disaster over there in FedEx. It's rough.
Oh, it's beyond. I mean, having been there a number of times, I can honestly tell you, it is. I would love to be the first one over there to push the plunger when they decide to implode it. But yeah, there's no real game atmosphere to going to a game at FedEx. And the Commanders, they're.
Do you like the name?
It doesn't one way or the other. I don't really care. I mean,
I kind of like football team. Football team.
I did too. It was kind of like a Premier League team, right?
It was like an oxymoron. I kind of liked it.
Right. Yeah. And it's run by a group of oxymorons, but
that's why it's perfectly fitting.
Perfectly fitting. But I think that the thing is that I never thought I would see a day when I moved to Washington. It was in 1992. I never thought I'd see a day when the Washington football team would be insignificant in the town. There's more people that care about the Caps, the Nationals, and even I won't say the Wizards, but certainly the Capitals and the Nationals then care about the Washington football team. And
they care more about Maryland.
Sorry?
They care more about Maryland than college.
No, that might be pushing it a bit. But,
might be pushing it a little bit. I don't know. They got a pretty good following in basketball.
Navy.
Okay, Navy can work. All right.
If you've ever gone to a game there, that's
I might have gotten greedy mentioning Maryland, but we were stretching it out a little bit.
We're pushing, but
yeah,
but FedEx and it's been a disaster, and I don't know. I mean, short of getting rid of the ownership, which may happen.
I can't believe Snyder still owns the team, but that's a whole separate can of worms.
Yeah, that's a 2-hour story.
That's a disaster. The fact that he still owns a team, but we can go down that rabbit hole. We're not going to.
No, that could take us months. But that the Jaguars and the Commanders. I think I'd watch professional bull riding first.
I think my vote for the worst game would be the Niners-Bears game, because at least the Commanders and the Jaguars defenses are not good. So maybe you'll get some entertainment of just some awful defensive plays. But you have the Niners and the Bears. I don't know if Trey Lance is good. I don't think he's very good from what I've seen in limited action. Justin Fields, I don't think is very good either, but the offensive line is going to get him killed. So the total in that game is like 40. And I said before, I like points. So I do think you could see points in that Washington game because neither defense is very good. The Niners
Right.
defense should be good. And the Bears defense, worst case scenario, is usually stingy.
Mhm.
So I think that's the worst game because I'm not sure either team reaches 20. I'll give the Niners 20 or 23. I
Right.
see like a 20-10 game.
Ugh.
But if you were talking about long shot underdogs,
Yeah.
I think the Niners are going to win. If you want to take a spin with the Bears at home, I don't hate it if you solely want to fade a pretty much a really young quarterback in what should be a low-scoring game on the road.
Mhm.
I could see worse bets than taking a flyer with the Bears at home, just hoping Lance turns it over 3 times.
Let me ask you a question. What is there a Ohio State quarterback in
That's
the
been good.
NFL that's been good? Because I sure as hell can't remember it.
Terrell Pryor was a good wide receiver. Does that count? It's a
Okay,
loophole. That
fair.
was for a year.
That's
That was for
that's
about
a
a year. I'm cheating,
that's
but
fair. But
there's
you
not
could
been
you
many.
you
No,
could go Antoine Randall L if you want to go that route.
he
Because
threw a better ball than about 80% of the Ohio State quarterbacks in the league.
that's true.
But I mean, I'm trying to think going way back. I
Oh,
mentioned
going way back,
Pryor.
yeah.
He switched positions. You have Troy Smith, who won the Heisman, who was in and out of the league in about
Right,
3 years. You had Haskins, rest in peace, but he wasn't very
right,
good his entire
sure,
career. Fields hasn't worked out. Barrett's been a backup his entire career.
right,
What's the name of the other guy? Cardell Jones didn't do
right,
anything, and he ended up
mhm,
going to either the XFL or the USFL. But the point is, he
right,
was out of the league too. I think
sure.
it was the XFL. Yeah, you haven't had pretty much any good Ohio State quarterbacks that I could think of. Who was the last good Ohio State quarterback? Because I mentioned Troy Smith,
I
and he wasn't
can't
good either.
remember any. I mean, I'm going back. Oh hell, I'm going back to the '60s, and I can't remember because you know Woody Hayes didn't like to throw the ball, so even in the '60s and early '70s,
I
that
mean,
was
neither
not.
did Jim Tressel. That's why they ran
No,
the ball a
Tressel
lot.
didn't either.
So
So college quarterbacks, fantastic. NFL quarterbacks, not so much.
now, am I going to say
And
that Stroud's a guaranteed bust because he's from Ohio State?
no,
No, but do I think he's going to be a very good pro quarterback? No, I think he's going to be a mediocre, but Ohio State is one of those programs that
Mhm.
coasts on prestige.
Right,
But at some point, you got to look around and realize that none of these quarterbacks are worth a damn once they leave Ohio State.
right.
So,
They're good athletes, but they're
yeah,
not good quarterbacks.
yeah,
But
that's the
I
main
was just,
takeaway.
yeah, pretty much interesting from that standpoint. Um, and we could go. There's a lot of good Big Ten quarterbacks running around, but not at Ohio State.
Yeah.
No shade on the Buckeyes, who are a good football team, but there you go. Interesting conversation today about Utah, uh, where I heard a local radio guy in Utah talk about the fact that the Utes were a pedestrian team.
Excuse me, did you say Utes?
The
What
Utes,
is
yeah,
a Ute?
yeah, exactly. My cousin Vinny, there you go,
Yeah, there you go.
movie reference.
Mhm.
So, anyways, college. We'll get to college tomorrow, but some crazy stuff going on. So let's talk a little bit about some games that and some teams that you like. Forgetting game, week one. If there's any games in week one you still want to talk about, we can absolutely do that. But if we want to give an overview, we can talk a little bit about the NFL as well.
Well, it's a team that I mentioned in week one that I like. I mentioned kind of in passing.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Chiefs in week one,
Right.
and no pun intended with in passing, but I expect Mahomes to throw for a bunch of yards. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
Arizona's very good. And we saw what happened the past couple of years with Kingsbury and how wherever he's
Mm-hmm.
gone, his teams have fallen apart in the second half of the year.
Right.
And it's not a coincidence when it happens everywhere you go. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that he's just not a good second half quarterback because second half coach because he doesn't make many adjustments. Kyler had his whole offseason issue with the
Mm-hmm.
contract clause and it got removed, but you can tell he's still extremely focused on non-football priorities or
Right.
non-football activities, and that's not exactly a good look for a franchise quarterback. They
Mm-hmm.
also now are going to be without Hopkins for about 2 months, and he's their
Right.
best receiver. They lost Kirk. They got Hollywood Brown. Do I like Hollywood Brown? He's okay. I don't think he's anything to write home about. They lost Chandler Jones. And if you look at the Chiefs in week 1 recently with Andy Reid, they've been incredible offensively. And the Chiefs have scored at least 33 points in each of their last 6 season openers. So we know Andy Reid off a bye. He's incredible. It also applies to week 1.
Right.
33 plus points in each of the last 6 season openers. I think the Chiefs beat down the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are a fade from start to finish. I just don't know how you can lose that much during the offseason, have all the distractions. Kingsbury's not a very good coach, and you expect me to think that they're going to remain competitive. I think the Chiefs come out and bring it. I think they'll win that game by double digits.
Well, the other part to your equation, which makes sense, is that Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes have been together now for 4 years. There's nothing they don't know. And, they roll out of bed and can score 14 points.
And they lost Tyreek Hill, but they had an entire offseason to prepare and game plan for it. I think they'll survive. Let's put it that way. But do you like anything about Arizona?
No.
I don't think they're a very good team.
I like Phoenix, but that's
it's a nice area,
right?
They have a nice university over there in Phoenix. It's on the line. You never have to leave the house.
That's right. They even have a bowl without having a football team.
But the Chiefs are one team that I'm looking at. I think week 1's a very good spot for them. And Arizona, for better or worse, plays in a dome. That might be a problem when you have Mahomes come to town. But that's one team I'm looking at. One line that I'm kind of intrigued by, but it's because I find the line fascinating. It's the Eagles-Lions game. And the Eagles are 4. They've been 4 for pretty much the entire week. People are high on the Lions. Hard Knocks or not. They just think Dan Campbell's going to get the most out of his players. They think that the team is definitely trending in the right direction. I think on paper, Phillies team is good, the Eagles. I think that they're a solid team. They're my pick to win the division. Do you think 4 sounds right? Do you think this game is competitive? Or do you think people are just overrating the Lions because of Hard Knocks and public exposure, that they're going to underachieve? People just don't realize that this team is still not very good on paper.
I think it's the latter. I don't think they realize they're not good on, at pretty much all the key parts of the game.
I like Hutchinson, but he's a rookie. We'll see how he does.
Yeah, it is. The one that intrigues me, and I wanted your opinion on this, and you guys can weigh in on it. Greatly appreciate it. I'm interested in seeing the Saints with Jameis Winston against the Falcons, two teams that are trying out new quarterbacks. Arch rivals with one minor thing. This is a Saints team that does not have Sean Payton. And Sean Payton was the head coach, but he called a lot of the offensive plays. He ran the offense. I'm very interested in seeing how that, Saints team reacts on the offensive side of the ball. Defensive, I think they'll be fine. But the offensive side of the ball without Sean Payton.
They kept the same offensive coordinator, so you have some type of cohesion. Now, you're right. Sean Payton's still offensive minded. He oversaw a lot of the actual offensive play calling. I think they have a good matchup for week 1 to work out some of the kinks, because I'm assuming we both agree the Falcons aren't very good. So I think the Saints should win the game. I like that Saints team from top to bottom, though. And I'm trying to think of any pros for the Falcons. I like Kyle Pitts a lot. Drake London, I'm kind of iffy on, mostly because of injuries. And I'm wondering if he's going to stay healthy or not. But I think Jameis is a good quarterback. I think that even though he threw a bunch of picks in Tampa, he did a good job early last year of avoiding interceptions. And it looked like the Saints were going to win 11 games last year. They killed the Packers in week 1, and we thought they were off to the races. And then he got hurt in the Buccaneers game, and the season fell apart. But I can understand your points. And anytime you lose not just a head coach, but a staple of the franchise, a guy who might have a statue outside the stadium in 10 years, I think it's a big deal. But I do think, though, with the rivalry aspect, the Saints will be ready to go. I think that Winston is definitely a huge step in the right direction compared to Trevor Siemian and Ian Book. And they also got Dalton, who's a pretty good backup. But you got Olave, who you drafted. I like him. You have a solid ground game. The offensive line is good for at least one side. I know that they have an injury to the other side, but still, it's mostly just a fate of Atlanta. Mariota looked pretty good in preseason. I don't know if that really means anything, but I do think that the Saints will wear this team down just physically. The Falcons aren't good on really either line, offensively or defensively. Their secondary is not very good. Their linebacking core, they have Deion Jones. That's basically it. And offensively, I mentioned they got Mariota and Cordarrelle Patterson, and they have like a good weapon or two that are relatively young. I think the Saints start the season off right. I just like their overall talent on paper.
I think Jameis is fine. I don't think that. I think he throws a deep ball as well as anybody in the league.
And he might not even need to throw the ball deep because
No,
they have a lot
I'm
of
just
good
saying,
intermediate receivers.
Right. I'm just saying that he's got the arm to throw everything. And he's realized that running is not necessarily something he has to do. So he's got that. Kamara's back. It's just, to me, it's going to be interesting to see how they play without Peyton. I'm not saying that look, they're still going to be a good football team. And, they put together a solid team on both sides. Somebody was talking to us about, they wanted to know about, what is it? Vikings Packers is a good one this week. We already talked about it. Scotty and I both think the Vikings are a good opportunity there. Nathan's right. It's like hell's furnace in Arizona, but it's a dry heat there, buddy. It's a dry heat. But then so it's microwaves. You don't want to put your head in.
It was a dry heat in Vegas when I was there during the summer, and it was 114. I'll tell you what, it still felt hot. I don't care if it was dry or not.
Yeah,
but
there you go. I'm looking about through most of this. Guys, we got a lot of baseball coming up, so we'll get there. Can anyone back the Jags is a good question.
I don't think the Commanders are very good, but I know a friend of mine likes Jacksonville to get the job done. I don't want to overreact to preseason because you don't exactly know what the story is. Was there really a worse preseason team this year than the Jaguars? Because they played an extra game, and they got their ass kicked in basically every game.
Yeah.
They were not good at all. So I'm not sold on Jacksonville. They could beat Washington. Washington's not good, as I said before, but I don't want to bet money on Jacksonville. That team's an absolute dumpster fire. Why would I do that?
Why would you waste the cash? So, yeah, doesn't make any sense. Any final thoughts on this week one?
Not really. I think it's a good primetime game both tonight and for Sunday night. Monday night, not so much. But Sunday night, you have the Buccaneers against the Cowboys. I'll talk about that briefly before moving on to today's parlays. I like the Buccaneers in that spot. I know that it was jumping around a lot. It went down to 1, I believe, at some point. Now it's back up to 2.5. I think the Cowboys had the worst offseason of any team in the league. I think they got worse at basically every position. I don't think they improved anywhere. Even their kicker got worse. Like, they really didn't get better at anything. And then Tyron Smith got hurt. And they had to sign 40-year-old Jason Peters, who I can tell you has been washed for about 3-4 years. I'm sure Rye can tell you that in the comment section because he's an Eagles fan. He's not very good, and they lost Cooper. They lost Wilson. They're relying on a rookie receiver to be their number 2 option or 3 option, but Gallup, we know, gets hurt a lot. James Washington broke his foot. He's not going to play in this game. They lost Gregory on defense. Their secondary is not very good. The Buccaneers, they have some concerns about Brady going AWOL, and the offensive line for both teams is really just in shambles. But I trust Brady more than Dak, and at least Tampa brought back a lot of their talent from last year. The Cowboys did not do that. The Buccaneers also got Julio. Now, Julio might get hurt by week 3 because he can't stay healthy, but the good part about week 1, he's healthy, so that counts for something. And Godwin's going to play. So I like Tampa. It's mostly fading the Cowboys. In a close game, who do you trust more? Bowles, who I know has not been a coach for that long. Is it weird I still like Bowles more than McCarthy in a close game?
No. I think that that Bowles has been given, the keys to a very decent, more than decent football team. And I think that while the Buccaneers have trouble specifically on the interior line right up the middle, which is where Brady doesn't like, he doesn't like to be,
Pressured.
forced up
I don't know who
front.
the Cowboys have in the interior, though.
No,
Every
no,
good player they have is
yeah,
like on the outside.
right. They're on their side. They're edge rushers. The one thing I can say about Julio Jones, and I've spoken to a bunch of reporters
I heard he's been
who,
great in camp.
yeah, he's great in camp. And part of the reason, Scott, and I think you'll appreciate this, and is that he's not the number one guy. He doesn't have to worry about that.
He's not even
You
number
know,
2. He's in a perfect
no,
spot up the seams.
right. He can go and play slot receiver, and he can take a couple plays off, and they'll put somebody else in.
Put
They
him in
got
a
plug it.
Gronk role.
Yeah, well, that'd be a great place to put him.
Yeah, put him up the
He'd be
seams, let him go
phenomenal.
for some jump balls and get
Yeah.
matched up maybe against a linebacker or
Yeah.
two.
So yeah, I think that we're going to see some interesting stuff coming out of that, and I think they're going to play him. One thing that we know about Brady, he'll take the talent that he has and pick out the guy, and you're going to see him throw to 5, 6, 7 guys, 8 guys probably before the night's over. So I think
And Brady's willing to exploit any mismatch presented to him.
Right.
And the Cowboys have a lot of mismatches on defense.
Right. So it'll be
I like the Buccaneers on that one.
There you go. All right. So where do you want to go now, my friend? You want to go to baseball?
Yeah, we'll pivot. Starting off with some of the picks. If there's any other baseball games that Jim and I want to talk about, we'll mention them after. But just going in order, starting with the 2 for the money, going to go with the White Sox and Oakland, the late game. We're going to go with the first 5 under 3.5 at -122. You have Cease on the mound against Sears, and both pitchers have been very good. We know Cease had the heartbreaker last time out. He was going for a no-hitter, gave up a hit with 2 outs in the 9th, but he's only given up 2 runs in his last 17 innings. He's been incredible, still fighting for a potential Cy Young there in the AL. And you have Sears pitching, and he's been very good in Oakland. Last 5 starts, 27 and 1/3 innings pitched, 2.63 ERA. And Oakland is also averaging just 2.94 runs per home game, which is dead last in the league. I don't see many runs. Both bullpens I don't like, though, so I'm going to ignore them. Give me the first 5 under. I think you'll see a very low scoring, maybe a 2-0 score after 5. But that's going to be my first pick in that one. And moving on to the football game that everyone's talking about tonight, looking at the total, I'm going to take the over 51.5 at -114 between the Bills and the Rams. I like both offenses too much. And White, who's the best cornerback on the Bills, is out. So I do expect Buffalo's defense to be a little bit more vulnerable in the pass defense. But when it comes down to it, if you have a total in the 50s in the NFL, you need big plays. And both these offenses will give you a bunch of big plays. So the fact that you might have a couple of quick strike, 60-yard touchdown plays potentially, I think this number, even though it's 51.5, which seems a little bit high, I don't think it's high enough. I think this game could finish with each team getting into the high 20s. I like the over in that one. You have any thoughts on either game?
Go ahead.
I was just going to wonder, do you like either play, or do you have some,
I think,
reservations about either one?
No, I think that, you've got, I think the White Sox realize that they've got to continue to win if they have any thoughts of postseason. Oakland has not played well as of late, and I do think you're right. I think that the pitching will prevail tonight for the White Sox. And the Bills, to me, are the team to beat in the AFC. And why would they not start it with a signature game against the Rams?
Yeah, and the Rams also lost Von Miller, so the pass rush will be a little bit worse. I just think you're going to see a lot of big plays, and that's going to kind of translate more towards a high-scoring game. But moving on to the second parlay, the first play in the second pick actually starts in about 20 minutes. But you have the White Sox on the money line at -190, or the run line at -1.5. So I'm doubling down on the late game here. I like Sears as a pitcher for Oakland. The issue is he gives you no length. He'll go about 5 innings. Cease is really just a monster at this point, and he'll go well and he'll go long. So if you're going to compare 7 innings, 1 run to 5 innings, 1 run, but you have Oakland's bullpen for 4 innings, I think the White Sox can break the game open late. There's a couple ways to win it, but I'll go with the White Sox to win that one. Plus, Oakland, as you said before, is not playing for anything. and the White Sox are in must-win territory basically every game from here on out. And then the second game in that 2-pick is going to be on Man United on the 3-way money line, so be careful there because a tie you do lose against Real Sociedad. Man U, after a really awful start to the Premier League season, has actually caught fire, as Man U has won each of the last 4 games. Meanwhile, you have Real Sociedad. They've been pretty mediocre so far in La Liga, goal differential of -1. The match is taking place in Old Trafford. I simply put think that Man U is going to win at home. It might not be the easiest win. I think it'll be competitive, but I do think Man U, especially with Antony joining the team, they just have too many weapons for me. Sociedad offensively is not very good, and I think Man U will find a way to win this game, probably close to 2-1 or so, but I'll take them on the money line.
Take it and run.
Yep.
And Man U, they the big story off the pitch is the possibility of them being sold.
Yep. The Glazer family might have had enough. So.
Yep. And they're going to fetch north of $5 billion.
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of cash.
Just imagine if they actually won a title within the last 10 years.
Yeah, that would kick it up to 5-5. So
yeah, maybe. But to go through those payouts, there's only one run line for the second one, so the payouts are going to be the same for the first. That includes the $100 stake, so keep that in mind. But the first 2-teamer gives you a payout of $341.59. And then for the second one, I actually can't see that at the moment. Sorry. So the second one with the White Sox money line, that pays out $245.14. And if you do the White Sox run line instead of the money line, that 2-pick pays out at $313.56.
I was in the midst of throwing a shout out to you there from
I know.
Andrew.
It's a little bit annoying because from the setup that we use for the actual live streams, it says slide 2, but it just so happens to be blocking the prices of the parlays, so I have to try to read through it. But I got it done. That's all
there you go. You made it work.
Yeah.
And Nathan likes a 2-teamer, so there you go. Well, Nathan, if you like the 2-teamer, then you're gonna have to like the 4-teamer, which is coming up next on the list of things we got going on.
Yep.
And come on, boys! I'm looking at that like button, and I'm not liking what I'm seeing. You please smack that thing.
So yesterday we won the 4-teamer, so we're gonna try to run it back this time around. Starting off with the NFL, the first play is going to be a very high-juiced player prop, but this number is a bit too low. You can find 4.5 at a couple other books, but I did see Gabriel Davis over 3.5 receptions, and he's the clear-cut number 2 guy behind Stephon Diggs. We're assuming that Ramsey's going to cover Diggs a decent amount of the night, but Davis has been phenomenal in camp. Sanders officially retired. They lost Cole Beasley as well. He's been phenomenal in camp. It seems like him and Allen have been really seeing eye to eye. He went for 4 touchdowns in a playoff game last year against Kansas City. So Davis is a phenomenal talent. I think 3.5's too low for a guy who should get, 8 targets in this game? 7 targets?
At least, yeah.
So I think that number's a bit low. I'll lay the juice there at 170. And then moving on to baseball, you have the Twins and the Yankees under 7. I don't know what type of lineup the Yankees are pretending to throw out there. It wasn't very good yesterday. They did sweep anyway. But you have Cortez, who's back off the IL, who's been very good, especially at home this season. Sonny Gray has been solid as well for Minnesota, but I don't really trust either team's lineup right now, especially with the injuries. Buxton's still out indefinitely. The Yankees are missing LeMahieu. They're missing Stanton. They're missing Rizzo. There's a lot of key bats in that lineup that are out. I'm going with the under there. I think you're going to see a very low-scoring game. Then I'm going to go a little bit contrarian with the baseball game between the Giants and the Brewers. You have Corbin Burns on the mound, and I'm actually going to take the team total over here for the Giants. Team total over 2.5 at -135. I know Burns is going to scare some people, but he's been awful lately, and even though some people recognize it, I feel like people have not realized just how bad he's been. The last 3 starts for Burns, 15 1/3 innings pitched, 8.22 ERA. He has been atrocious, and the Giants are guaranteed 9 at-bats. This is game 1 of the doubleheader. I just think a team total of 2.5 against a pitcher with an 8+ ERA in the last 3. We also know the Brewers don't exactly have much of a bullpen.
Right.
Williams has struggled in the reliever role or in the closer role. Rogers hasn't been good either. I think 2.5 is a little bit too low for a team total. And last but not least, going back to tennis, we're going to go with another over on the women's side with Garcia and Jabeur in the women's semifinal match. I like the over 20.5 games at minus 155. Garcia is a favorite. Despite being the unranked player, she's been phenomenal in hard court, but Jabeur is a top 5 player in the world. I think that you're going to see a very competitive match here, potentially 3 sets, maybe a 7-5 or a 7-6 first set. But 20.5 for the games does seem a little bit too low. Going to go with the over there. And if you bet the money line, and there is no run line, so you're stuck on money lines. But if you take actually, there is no money line either. So if you just take the parlay, it's an $100 bet to win $833.87. So a parlay, a 4-picker that pays out at plus 733.
That's a pretty good deal. Quick question for you on any thoughts on the WNBA tonight?
So it's a winner go home. It is game 5 in the semifinals. Winner goes to the actual final. This one's going to be a very competitive game in my eyes. You've had a pretty even series, obviously, because it's tied 2-2. People are going to blindly take Chicago because they're the defending champions, and they've done well in the head-to-head against Connecticut. However, Connecticut did a very good job in Game 4 of attacking the paint. They dominated in the actual painted area, and they've dominated on the glass in every game in the series. I think that there's actually value on Connecticut at plus 4.5. I think the game's very competitive, so I will take the points. I like the under in that game. I think that 159, 159.5 is a little bit too high. Usually in elimination games, winner-go-home games for both teams, you tend to see very low-scoring games because both teams are extremely nervous. The referees let them play a bit more. I think you're going to see a lower-scoring game there where defense kind of takes over. I do have some player props that I actually like in that game. I like the under for Jonquel Jones at 15.5 points. She's really been a non-factor offensively in most of the games in the series. And I like Candace Parker over 10.5 rebounds, assuming that since it's an elimination game, she's going to play 30-something plus minutes here. She's done very well in the series, on the glass especially. I like her over 10.5 rebounds. So those are kind of my plays. I like the player props more, but I'll lean to Connecticut, and I'll lean to the under.
Here's another quick question. About the Marlins' first 5 under 3.5 runs.
So the Marlins can hit. We know this. Alcantara is going to win the Cy Young. However, Alcantara has not been very good lately. His last 5 starts, 32 and 1/3 innings pitched, 4.73 ERA. It's also not entirely his fault when he has to pitch basically 8 innings every time he starts. I'm sure his arm feels like jello right now, so he hasn't looked as sharp lately. Gibson hasn't been good either. Last 5 starts, 25 innings pitched, 5.04 ERA. It's really a no play for me because I'm not a fan of the current form of both starters, but Miami actually cannot hit. So you can make cases for both sides. I'm going to stay away on that one. It's a no action for me.
Okay. All right, folks, remember that if you have any questions and you're watching the replay of that about obviously the baseball and is going to be ancient history by the time some of you see this, but for sure on the NFL, leave it in the comments and we will respond to it. Just a quick shout out to the network, and that is that we start every day off with Sean Miller's soccer show at 11 a.m. Then it's Sean Higgs at noon, followed by Allie Burns coming up at 1 o'clock. We show up at 2 p.m. At 3 o'clock, it's Picks and Parlays Power Hour. Then at 5, it's Game Time Decision with Lenny and the Earl brothers, Tim and Nick. So check them out on the network. So the Power Hours following us at 3 o'clock. And we definitely want to give some promotion to the network and to the gangs that are started at 11 a.m. and end at 6 p.m. So there's plenty of opportunities to get some information that will help hopefully you have a better day when it comes to that. We have a couple of fine final things. Rye is like Rye's question is not a question; it's a statement. The Dolphins own Pats in Miami.
That is true.
And the other one, dovetail on AJ's, and that is that Belichick loses game one usually.
They lost game one last year to Miami at home.
Right.
So.
And I think pretty much we got everybody else. Does anybody else have any questions, or you see anything there?
Yes. I see one thing. I see somebody asking me about the other women's tennis match tonight between Sabalenka and Swiatek. Is there any possibility for an upset? Sure. Sabalenka's played well. Her serve is a little bit inconsistent. Same with Swiatek. Swiatek's serve has been a little bit underwhelming.
Right.
But is there potential? Sure. Am I picking Sabalenka to win? No. I think Swiatek's the best player in the world on the women's side, and I think she'll get it done. Can Sabalenka take a set? Yeah, I don't mind the over in that match. I think it'll be competitive. But I am going to say that I think Swiatek ends up winning the match.
Okay. There you go, folks. Quick question for you, Scott, back on the NFL. Do you have an over-under on whether or not how many games that the Carolina Panthers will have their star running back?
Oh, you mean my number 2 overall pick in my fantasy draft?
Oh, sorry, I hit a sore note.
It's not a sore note at all, because with the second pick in the draft, I had no choice. I recognized the fact that McCaffrey's made of glass. I just didn't really have a choice at number 2. The over on is it are you talking about before the first injury or the entire season?
I'm just saying I'm going the entire season. I'm not talking about the first injury, because he usually gets multiples.
If I'm setting the number, I can't set it extremely low, because that's just not really
it's not
fair to him. I'll go over or under if I was setting the line myself.
Yeah.
11.5.
Oh, I was going to go
maybe
9.
10.5.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Well, hopefully, I mean, look.
Most people would slam the under, but if I was pricing it, I'd probably put it at 10.5 or 11.5.
Right. Push it. I hope he plays the whole season.
He's one of the most entertaining players in the league. It's just he's hurt every year.
He's phenomenal. And but he's one of those guys, you're sitting there just going, man, if only he could play the whole season, what would it be? So, there's always one of those guys. But we do what we can do, right? Any final thoughts, Scotty, before we get out of here?
Not really. It was fun covering NFL action with all of you. We'll be back once again tomorrow to go through college. So I'm going to throw in a couple of college plays potentially for the Friday card in the parlays, and we'll talk about Saturday, etc. Besides that, still have the college football show with Steen on Friday. So if you want some bonus picks there, we're giving out 3 picks apiece. Went 2-1 last week, not too shabby. No. And besides that, looking forward to the NFL season. Should be a lot of fun. I know I'm excited. You're excited. Everyone here is excited. The entire country of America is excited. Should be a fun time. And I'm looking forward to cashing a lot of bets with all of you. So,
there you go.
Yep. With that being said, until next time, we're back same time tomorrow. Good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.
Bye.